Hello and a big welcome back to the Wee Larder channel. Today we're going to be making a delicious apple cider clootie pudding. So this recipe is based on a traditional Scottish clootie pudding, and it is very seasonal and it's really delicious. So you might want to pause the video at these lovely ingredients here, but to get started we're going to pop a large pan of water onto the heat. So we're going to bring that up to a boil and bring it back down to a simmer. We're going to sieve all of our flour into a mixing bowl. My mixing bowl had actually broken when I was filming this video, so I'm just using a large pie dish, but it actually worked really well for making the dough in it. It just made it easier to get my hands in about, so it worked out really well in the end. So once all our flour is sieved, we're going to add all of our lovely suet in there, and we're then going to add all of our raisins. So if you just pop all of your raisins in there, and we're then going to add in our sugar on top. So I've used golden caster sugar, but you can use white caster sugar, it doesn't really matter. I like the flavour of the golden caster sugar though, it's really nice. And we're going to add in a pinch of salt there as well. And we're also going to sprinkle in our spices at this point. So we're just going to give that a good mix through once all of our spices in there, and this smells amazing at this point. It is so delicious, this pudding, I absolutely love it. So we're going to give that a good mix through just to make sure all the spices are mixed through the flour and the raisins and things, just to distribute the flavours evenly. So now that we've mixed that through, we're going to add in a little bit of vanilla extract, and we're also going to pop our eggs in there as well. We're also going to add in our grated apple at this point. So if you just grate your apple in, I'm using quite a fine grater, but you can use a grater that produces larger chunks if you want to. It doesn't really matter. So we're just going to give that a good mix through with our hands. You can use a spoon if you like, but I just like to get stuck right in there with my hands because we're going to be making a dough anyway. So it's probably best that you get stuck in there with your hands at this point. Now we're going to start adding in cider. There's no specific quantity of cider here. It really is just enough to give this a good mix through and turn it into a dough. So you want to just keep adding a little bit at a time and keep mixing away, and your dough should start forming. So you can kind of get an idea from the video here of what you're looking for. If you do go a little bit over with the cider and it's a little bit too runny, then just please feel free to add in a little bit more flour in there. But if you just add a little bit at a time, mix it through, and you are looking for this kind of consistency when this is finished. So you're looking for something like this. So as I say, if you find it's too dry, just keep adding a little bit more cider. If you've gone a little bit over with the cider, just add in a little bit more flour. So we want to shape it into a rough ball kind of shape. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pop our cloth into our pan just in the boiling water there, so please be very careful. We're just going to take that out into a bowl, and we're now going to place our cloth across the counter. So I am actually using like an old sheet. It was an old baby sheet, I think, because I couldn't find my muslin cloth, but you can use a muslin cloth. It doesn't really matter, just whatever you can find to hand. So I'm just stretching this out, and we're then going to sprinkle some flour across it. So just stretch it out as flat as you can. It doesn't have to be completely flat, but just as flat as you can. So we're going to sprinkle our flour over the top there, and this just helps to stop it sticking in the cloth, but I find it also helps to create a good crust as well on your pudding. So you're just going to pop your ball in there. Don't worry too much about large cracks. It will just inflate in size and create a lovely delicious pudding, a nice shape once it is cooking in the pan. Just squeeze it to get it together to create a ball, a rough ball kind of shape. So we're now going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on the top just so that all the surfaces are roughly covered. So you don't need too much flour, you can get a rough idea how much I used by looking at the video. And then we're going to bring the cloth together like this, and what we need to do is we actually need to leave a space in the top of the cloth to give our pudding room to expand. So we want to sort of hold it in our hands here like so, and you can kind of get an idea of the space that I've left here just by the video here. You can see I have quite a bit of room for the pudding to expand, so you want to make sure you've got that space, otherwise it won't inflate to its proper size, and it might be a little bit it won't be as fluffy as well if it's not getting space to inflate in the pan. So once we have our space and we have it the way we want to tie the knot like that, so that we still have room in our pudding like so. You can just see my shadow here, but here is my lovely pudding, and you can see I have left the space there, and we want a really good knot on there. You can just use a piece of strings, whatever you have. So I've popped a bowl in there, the right side up at the bottom of the pan, and this just helps to rest the pudding in the pan. And we're just going to pop the lid on there as well. So just make sure you get the lid on as tight as you can. Just spread the cloth out the top of the pan so that you can get the lid on. Now we're going to leave this on a medium-ish simmer for about roughly 2.5 to 3 hours. I went for the 3-hour mark. So if you want to be sure, just go for the 3 hours. So you don't want it boiling all the time. A medium to high is what you're looking for. And you want to keep an eye on it and make sure it doesn't run out of water as well. So after the 3 hours, we're going to take our lovely pudding out, and you can see that it has expanded into the space that I left. And we're going to pour our hot water out, and we are going to replace that with cold water. So I have cold water here, and this is a little trick that I learned from an old Scottish cookbook. If you dip your pudding into the cold water, it helps to get the pudding cloth off. So we dip it in there, and we're going to pop that back in the plate and just pop the water out of the way. So we're now going to take our lovely cloth off and inspect our delicious pudding. So by this point it smells amazing, by the way. The spices are so good, and if you're making this at Christmas time, you can put in some extra spices like cloves and whatever else you want. You can put more cinnamon in it as well. So it doesn't look the prettiest on this side of the pudding, I will admit. It never does on this side. And what we're going to do is take that cloth off completely, pop a chopping board on top of the pudding, and we're then going to flip that right over. So I always think this is the best side to display your lovely pudding, especially if you've got guests around and you want to impress everybody. So we're just going to peel the cloth off there like so, and you should have a beautiful smooth clootie pudding. So it's very smooth to touch, and what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle this lovely skin, this pudding skin, with sugar. So if you just give a good sprinkle all over, and just make sure you get the sides as well, just use your hand to kind of throw the sugar on there like so, and we just want to pop that all over. And I just think this helps with the crust. It helps with the flavour and the shine. It's lovely. So I hope your pudding turned out as delicious as this. And we're just going to cut into it to show you a slice here. This lasted us for the whole week as well, so this is going to feed a lot of people, and it does freeze really well, and you can also reheat it in the oven as well the next day. That works really well. So it's delicious served with custard. You could serve it with cream. It's also really nice cold, but I do prefer to have it hot, so reheating it in the oven works really well. So I hope you enjoyed this delicious apple cider clootie pudding, and if you did enjoy this video, please feel free to give it a big thumbs up, and if you click that little bell next to it, I will see you guys again soon. I'm also over on Instagram, so please feel free to pop over and say hello. Take care, lots of love, bye bye.